Mr. Jean's Barber Shop, State Street, the Virginia side. I walked in hand with Pa, 5 years old and terrified. Mr. Jean smiled at me, helped me up into the chair. In the mirror I could see an old red fiddle hanging there.
You're listening to WKCR 89.9 FM New York. I'm John Howley, and today I have the absolute privilege to speak with one of bluegrass music's most influential artists, Becky Buller. After joining her parents' bluegrass band at the age of 8, Becky discovered a talent and passion for the fiddle. A beautiful vocalist and a fiddling prodigy, Becky went on to attend East Tennessee State University's Bluegrass, Old Time, and Country Music program. After years of performing in bluegrass singer Valerie Smith's band, Becky founded her own group, the Becky Buller Band, in 2015. Not only is Becky a brilliant performer, but she is also a talented and sought-after songwriter. Becky's songs have appeared on records by artists such as Ricky Skaggs, Rhonda Vincent, Quicksilver, and many, many more. Becky has also released 5 studio albums and is a member of the bluegrass supergroup, the First Ladies of Bluegrass. With 10 International Bluegrass Music Awards and songs on 2 Grammy Award-winning albums, it is safe to say that Becky is one of the genre's most beloved figures. Her most recent song, Millworker, was released on August 19th, 2022. Becky, it's an honor to speak with you.
Thank you, John. We finally got together. We've
Yes.
only been planning this for how many months now?
I know, it's been about 3 months that I texted you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are right now in a Walmart in Tennessee, is that correct?
Yes, I want to thank my friend who's the manager here for, I won't say his name, I don't want to get him in trouble, but he let me use the interview room here to talk to you today.
Amazing. So
And
you're in the proper spot.
Right. I know.
Yeah.
I love it. I'll have to get a picture for the socials here in a little bit.
You can do some shopping on the way out too, get some groceries.
I know what I'm going to go looking for as soon as I'm done.
A very productive day.
Yes.
The perfect interview spot. Oh, great.
Right.
Well, you are a prolific songwriter in the bluegrass community, and today I want to talk about your process when it comes to writing music. Specifically, I would love to talk about how you use music to tell a story. A lot of your songs, like The Barber's Fiddle, Amos and Sarah, John D. Champion, and many, many more, weave a tale through song. Your latest single, Millworker, tells the story of a woman who unhappily resorts to working in a mill. And as you start to create these storytelling songs where you investigate these characters that you create, how do you choose which stories and characters you want to explore?
Oh, wow. Well, there has to be something about the story that catches my interest. For example, John D. Champion, it was his name. What a great name.
Yeah.
My friend Linda Dawson, who's my co-writer on that one, she said, my father-in-law told me about this guy and his name just makes me want to write a song about him. And we dove deeper into John D's story and got really excited, found records of his service in World War II. He flew P-38 Lightnings in the Aleutian Islands, and he was a test pilot. They just plucked him up out of the fields. He was a farmer, just a farm boy around Raleigh, North Carolina. And they plucked him up out of the fields and put him in an airplane. And I find it interesting that he, after the war, he didn't have anything else to do with planes. He went home and he went back to farming. But in the course of the song, we established that he flew the planes, and then his mom, so this all really happened. His mom got sick and they said she wasn't going to make it, and so he just took a plane and came home. He didn't even ask permission. I mean, it's all right there. And I love it when stories like this, true stories that people tell you, I always have my ears open for them, but it's like these wonderful little gift wrapped song ideas that somebody just hands you, and then all you got to do is figure out, well, what can I tell, and how much, you only have a certain amount of time to tell a story.
Right.
how can I get the most across in the least amount of time and fewest words? And I just love that challenge.
He said, John D, you got a real good set of eyes. We're gonna teach you how to fly. Send you to Alaska. The Japanese have us on the run. Now we got the lightning one. Would you test her if we ask you? You gotta know there's a good chance you won't make it. Pull up on your bootstraps, John. Pull up on your lightning one. You'll fly, boy, Piedmont farmer's son. John D. Champion. It's a hard game when you're used to staying on the ground. A couple times he went down. He stuck with the mission till the call came. Your mama's taken sick. Better get home mighty quick. He didn't even ask permission, 'cause they all said there's a good chance she won't make it. Pull up on your bootstraps, John. Pull up on your lightning one. You'll fly, boy, Piedmont farmer's son. John D. Champion. Word got out, John D. had come to town, laid his mama in the ground, and was taking off soon from Raleigh. An eager crowd gathered at the strip, too short for him to lift a P-38 or the pine trees. They all said there's a good chance he won't make it. Pull up on your bootstraps, John. Pull up on your lightning one. You're fly, boy, Piedmont farmer's son. John D. Champion. Our fly, boy, Piedmont farmer's son. John D. Champion.
Hearing about the backstory, I didn't realize that that was a real person. I mean, I had an
Yes.
idea, but I didn't know if that was sort of something you created. So when you're writing these songs, are they based mostly in truth?
Yes, some.
Mhm.
There's a grain of truth, and there's a little bit of me in every song that I
Right.
write. But like I said, I've always got my ears open. I'm always writing stuff down. I've got a running list on my phone of song ideas, and sometimes I'll write things up myself. A lot of times I'll do co-writing these days because
Right.
it's harder for me to carve out the headspace to write on my own now with all the responsibilities that I have as a wife, a mother, a band leader, a teacher, a board member. I've just, there's just so much I've got going on. So unfortunately, songwriting takes a back seat, even though it's one of my favorite things about. I literally picked up the fiddle so that I could sing in my parents' band, and then and then not long after that to sing the songs that I was writing.
Oh, right.
Because in bluegrass music, for those of you who don't follow the genre, just in 9 times out of 10, everybody in the band plays something, and usually everybody plays multiple instruments. Like they'll have one that's their main instrument, but then they'll trade around. Like usually the bass players, for instance, are frustrated something else players. Like they were a frustrated fiddler that somebody said, "Hey, you're kind of pretty good on the bass. Why don't you play bass?" That happens a lot with bass players. So my parents said, "You can't just sing in our band. You need to play something." And I looked at what they had, and my mom played guitar, my dad played mandolin, Gordy played the banjo. Gordy Schultz and his wife Roxy played the bass, and I didn't know about dobro at the time. And so I said, okay, you don't have a fiddle, I'll play fiddle. And I've always approached the fiddle like that, like it was secondary to my singing and my songwriting. And so to that end, I always tell people I'm not a real fiddle player because I don't know enough waltzes. I don't work on fiddles. I really should know more show tunes, or I mean, like showpiece kind of fiddle tunes that, you know, that sparkle than I do. And then my husband says that all the real fiddle players he knows kill rattlesnakes and copperheads and skin them and and taxidermy them. I'm like, okay.
So I guess you can't be a real fiddler.
I'm not a real fiddle player. Yeah.
Well, for not being a real fiddle player, you've received quite a lot of acclaim for your fiddle playing, I gotta say.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that I'm so grateful. And I still feel like I'm trying to live up to that. Like it really knocked me for a loop to receive that honor from my peers. I'm so grateful and flabbergasted, and it frankly, it scared me to death. But that's just my personality.
Well, it seems like the fiddle's working out, I think it's safe to say. And as you're playing it, you teach a lot too. You're a very active fiddling teacher. What got you into teaching that instrument specifically?
A real necessity, really. When I was in college, I'm from Minnesota, as you said, thank you. And I went to school at East Tennessee State University. And so after my first year, I went to school part-time and worked full-time so that I could get in-state tuition and or like in-state status or whatever, and cut my tuition in half. And part of my work was playing in bands and doing work study jobs on campus. I was in the parking office for a while. People would come in all mad about, parking ticket they'd gotten. They'd hear me sitting there like singing, and I'd be writing the song while I'm just sitting there waiting for somebody to come be mad at me about their parking ticket. And it diffused a lot of people. That was
sure.
nice. They'd get nice. But anyway, and then I taught in there too. So it was, did all that to try to get my tuition down and make it through college. Praise God, without any debt. I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, and I found I do enjoy teaching, and I've taught pretty much consistently since then. I've taken off from it maybe a year or two here and there because I got busy with other stuff. But so, oh my gosh, that's been over 20 years that I've been doing it. And I offer online so I teach in person in Manchester, Tennessee, but then I also teach online, and I offer vocal coaching, mainly fiddle coaching is, that's my main thing. Songwriting coaching, I do some of that. And then at home, I do take on some local students with, beginning guitar, mandolin. I took on a banjo student. Now I got to learn how to play Scruggs style banjo so I can help him along. He's switching over from mandolin, and I love their family so much. I'm like, okay, I'm not a banjo player, but I'll try. But I do clawhammer style banjo. I picked that up in college. So that's the old time style banjo.
So how many instruments do you, you're redefining multi-instrumentalist.
Yeah, too many. Definitely too many.
Is that normal in a bluegrass band system?
Yes. Yeah, it really is. So on stage these days, I play mostly fiddle, but I will switch out to clawhammer banjo. In a previous incarnation of the band, we had a fantastic multi-instrumentalist on the guitar, Professor Dan Boner from East Tennessee State University. He's the head of the program there now.
Oh, wow.
And his real job got in the way of going out on the road with us. But he's a fantastic fiddler. So I would switch to guitar on a few songs just so that he could show off his fiddling skills. And but it's been nice at not having to carry 3 instruments these days. But hey, it makes the show more interesting. I don't mind toting them along, and people are like, "Ooh, she plays all this different stuff." But really, I just dog paddle on a lot of different instruments, and fiddle's my main axe.
And you're talking about touring right now with a band, the Becky Buller Band, which you founded in 2015. But
Mhm.
before then, you toured with Valerie Smith and other bluegrass
Mhm.
musicians. What is
Yes.
sort of the lifestyle? I mean, as I was texting you, trying to find an interview time and following you on Instagram, I was seeing how often, you were traveling to different places, doing different workshops. Can you talk a little bit about that sort of lifestyle as a bluegrass musician, just kind of constantly on the road?
Yeah, and I'm not on the road as much as a lot of people. I mean, although it may look like that, shh, don't tell anybody. But I am gone. I'm gone more than I realize. My band is mostly a weekend warrior band because we have two guys that work day jobs and are just not able to get off that much. My main gig is that I'm Romy's mama, and take that all very seriously, and so I need to be there to grab her from school and get her to her
Yeah.
various activities and stuff, and grateful to have good neighbors and friends and family that help us to make all this work. Couldn't do this without them, and couldn't do it without wonderful supportive spouses of all my band members, where
Absolutely.
it's yeah. But I have a really great team of people that are around me, just great positive people, and that's important to me to maintain that, an environment, a positive environment where everybody has fun. We make good music,
Yeah.
hopefully for good money, have a good time and go home.
Yeah,
So
that sounds like a dream.
when I hire anybody, that's what I say. This is what I want to do.
Right.
And I try hard to maintain that. But we do, we travel. I don't know what to tell you about traveling. We don't have a bus. The band likes to give me down the road about that. But man, when COVID hit, I was so grateful that I didn't have a bus or even a 15-passenger van sitting in the driveway
Right.
that needed to be, have that payment every month. So I rent vans, and we fly quite a bit, and just make it work.
Right.
And so far, it's been working because it has to work.
Yeah, you said in an interview with the Grand Ole Opry, which, by the way, congratulations on making your opera debut last year.
Oh my
That's
gosh, thank
amazing.
you.
Um,
Oh, mind blown,
how was
it's
that
crazy.
experience? Just before we continue.
I floated through the whole thing.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it was happening.
Amazing. And I loved
Yeah.
the little interview video they do for the debut.
Yeah.
I watched yours, and in it you said something along the lines of, in bluegrass, you have to do it yourself. And
Yeah.
I thought that was such just like a profound sentiment. You were talking about how you had to wear a lot of hats in the music industry and production business
Yeah.
to sort of make
Yeah.
your career happen. Would you say that
Yes.
served you very well in this industry?
I think so. I mean, I guess I'm stubborn and I won't go away. And I just keep trying to figure out, how to keep moving and how to keep doing. The latest thing has been that I've been without a booking agent since
Mm,
December. I've been trying to find somebody, but everything's wonky for everybody as we try to
right.
get back going again after COVID. And it's a new world, good or bad. That's where we're at,
Yeah.
and so everybody's trying to figure it out. And I've had some agents that were interested in us, but they were just very honest. They wanted to make sure that they could take care of the artists they have
Mm,
on the roster now, didn't want to take on anybody else until they were sure that it was, everything was back
right.
in sync and moving along well. And so I've had to pick up the slack. And so I'm trying to carve out time to make those calls and send those emails
Mm,
and try to get some work for us. And I have days where I feel so spread thin that I get a little, it gets to me.
mm,
But like I said, with the songwriting, I love the challenge of it.
yeah.
And I've always loved the challenge. So, and bluegrass offers
A challenge.
can be
Yeah.
challenging, most of the time.
Can you talk a little more about your most recent song, Millworker, which was released on August 19th?
It's a cover that was featured on his 1979 album, Flag. And my band and I picked it up in 2018 because we were headed to Massachusetts to do a show for the Boston Bluegrass Union. And I wanted to sing something that had Massachusetts in it. And I have always loved that song. But then, so we did it for that show and loved it so much. And the whole band did. And so we just have had it in rotation on our sets ever since then. And this year we just decided to start working toward the covers record. So eventually this is going to be on a full album. For right now, it's a single wherever you do your downloading: Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, all those places. But it was originally written for a musical. I think it's Studs Terkel, I think, was the one that wrote the musical. And it was staged in Chicago originally. And so there's a bluegrass connection to it. Chris Jones, who is one of the DJs on Sirius XM Satellite Radio's Bluegrass Junction, and is also a touring artist himself. So his mom was in that original production of this play. And I'm trying to think of the name of the play now. If it was all about labor. And it might have just been called Labor. And it was based on a book of Studs. Anyway, but Chris's mom didn't sing this song. It was sung by another lady, but anyway, I just thought, gosh, what a small world this is. Right. Yeah. This James Taylor song that had something to do with, Chris's mom back in the day in theater and whatnot. But anyway, we had a lot of fun recording it. Andrea Zahn came in to sing on it. She is part of James Taylor's all-star band. Oh, cool. The first time I worked with her was back in 2003 on my Little Bird record. And she's kind of grew up in the bluegrass community, but sang with Vince Gill for years and years and fiddled with him. And then, now she's been with James Taylor for a long, long time in his band. So that was just a great honor to have her on this cut, along with Dan Tyminski, George Clooney's singing voice on the movie Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? Oh my
gosh, that is so cool.
Yes. And then, of course, my awesome road band, Ned Lubarecki on banjo, Jake Eddy on guitar, Daniel the Hulk Harden on the bass, and Wesley on the mandolin.
Oh, well, that's amazing. Wow, what an interesting story to that song. That's fascinating.
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say that song, it encapsulates, it sort of has the classic bluegrass sound, which you described as folk music in overdrive, I believe. And it has these lyrics that tell this very real, gritty story about this woman working in Massachusetts mill.
Yeah, I can just, I feel possessed of her when I sing that song. I feel like she's just singing out through me, and I look down and I see those calloused hands, and I just, I feel her kind of cold resignation to her life and what it's become, and her regret, and how she feels so trapped, and she's so down that she can't even cry about it.
Right.
Millwork ain't easy. Millwork ain't hard. Millwork, it ain't nothing but an awful boring job. I'm waiting on a daydream to take me through the morning. Put me in my coffee break where I can have a sandwich and remember. And then it's me and my machine for the rest of the morning, for the rest of the just as long as I am able. Never meet the man whose name is on the label. It be me and my machine for the rest of the morning, for the rest of the afternoon, oh, for the rest of my life.
You said in a TEDx talk that bluegrass is, quote, happy, upbeat music with miserable, depressing lyrics.
Okay. Yes. And I was quoting my banjo player, Ned Luberecki, on that. So I can't take claim for that quote. But that's how he describes bluegrass music.
And this,
it's
I
so
think
true.
this song perfectly kind of captures that. And so
Yeah.
I was wondering if you have any insights, sort of as a bluegrass scholar, about why you think that dichotomy exists in bluegrass music.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. I mean, of course, bluegrass is the amalgamation of African rhythms and Scotch-Irish fiddle tunes and old gospel hymns, Methodist and Baptist hymns. And, this was music that was born of hardworking people, who are barely making ends meet, sharecropping, or maybe working in the coal mines, or the people that, that's where it started, and then they took it up to the factories in the north, and Michigan, Ohio, New Jersey, and there's this wonderful tradition in the Celtic music world of these ballads that are just awful, I'm trying to think of Banks of the Ohio, for instance. I think that's based on an old ballad from the British Isles, and it's absolutely terrible that the guy loves this girl, so he kills her. Like, that makes sense, and yet you'll hear Tony Rice singing that song, and it's got this only say that you'll be mine, hey up and it's got this happy melody to it, but miserable lyrics. So I don't know, I guess it's life. I mean, there's so much dark and light in life, and I think all music touches on it and tries to explain it, and is a way for us to escape from everything, the reality of our world, the harshness of it, and I don't know, bluegrass music seems to be a little edgier that way on the subject matter than a lot of the other genres these days.
And when you begin to write a bluegrass song, do you actively try to create music that has that juxtaposition between the upbeat sound and the lyrics? Is that in your mind presently?
So everybody always asks, what comes first, the lyrics or the music? And usually for me, it's the lyrics. So it might be a word, a phrase, it might be a story. And then the song that like, if it's a phrase, that has a rhythm to it. All words have rhythm to them. And that rhythm leads me to a melody, and that melody kind of leads me to another direction. The song unfolds from there. And I always say, the song is going to tell you what it needs and where it needs to go, and what you need to say and what you don't need to say. And, both of those things are important, what you say and what you left unsaid. And, I follow the idea where it leads. And sometimes it will lead me to a happy, upbeat melody and miserable, depressing lyrics. And sometimes it'll lead me into a gospel song, or and sometimes it'll be something wistful and beautiful. And I just try to follow where the song will lead. And I do, and certain song ideas, I'll think, oh yeah, I think this is something I want to try to write for myself, or this is shaping up, more like this is shaping up to be a song that I'd like to write for myself, or hey, this song idea makes me think of this particular band. I think I want to try to write this in a way that's kind of in keeping with their style.
Okay.
So because I do write a lot of songs for other artists.
Right.
Yeah, and I just, I want to encourage people, just write. If you're a songwriter, just write, and don't, turn off that self-editor, and just write stuff and keep everything. And you never know when you'll come back to something. You might write something that you love the song, but you would never record it yourself. It will, try to find its singer. Tom T. Hall always says, a song will find its singer.
Now, you mentioned that when you're writing songs, you often either write for another band in mind, or you write with collaborators. And you said in an interview with the International Bluegrass Music Awards that, quote, you do write solo, but have been doing more co-writing as of late. You also said in that interview that over the pandemic, you wrote songs with 29 people, is what I believe you said.
Is it?
Yeah,
was it that many?
29 people.
Oh my gosh, it was crazy. It was so crazy.
So you spoke a little earlier about why you're inclined to the collaborative songwriting process. What does your collaboration look like when approaching bluegrass music?
Yeah, I mean, we just get together, and either virtually, which is of course what we did over the pandemic, and or in a room. I'll go up to the BMI offices in Nashville, and they have writer rooms there that you can just use for 4-hour stints. I've also written up at Dayspring, Daywind, sorry. Dayspring's the greeting card. Daywind Records up there in Nashville, and various places. I wrote and met a friend yesterday up in Sewanee, Tennessee, up at just outside the University of the South, and we sat outside this cafe, and we're working on a musical, which is his.
Oh my gosh.
At least his second musical. It's my first.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty exciting.
That's so nice to hear.
Always wanted to write a musical, so that's going to be interesting. Kind of a mix of bluegrass and country and some gospel and some crooning, and it's going to be crazy. It's really crazy stuff. But so yeah, we just, we when I get together with a co-writer, it's always the same, no matter what kind of music I'm writing. Most of what I do is bluegrass. During the pandemic, I got to work with a lot of writers that I've been talking about writing with for years and years. And we finally I just made it happen. I just stacked my schedule with writing appointments. If my daughter was at school and I wasn't teaching, I was doing a writing appointment. But yeah, we just get together, we throw ideas around, or we talk about our day, or how have you been? What's been going on? And the song may be born of that. And we usually bring a few ideas to the table. And we just throw some stuff out there, and one thing seems to appeal to us both more than another. And so we'll chase that idea for a while. And sometimes you'll write the song from the inside out. You'll write the second verse, and you're like, this sounds like a second verse. Let's explain it. So then we write the first verse, then we write the chorus, or we write the chorus first. Sometimes if you're stuck on one portion of the song, set it down and go figure out another portion of the song. And in that process, you might be able to, you might come up with what needs to happen in that other spot. There's usually a lot of coffee involved, usually snacks, chocolate. Chocolate's important.
Now, what song, or is there a song that holds a special place in your heart because of the collaboration process? Like, is there any song that when you hear, you're just like taken back to that chocolate eating session, and it just kind of has a special place?
Oh boy. Yeah, probably. Oh gosh, now I gotta think.
Was there a song that was kind of challenging that you remember really kind of having to fight to understand and create?
Well, one song that comes to mind, and this wasn't a collaboration, this is just me, was the title track from my Tween Earth and Sky record. So the song's actually called Didn't Die, and we chose the line Tween Earth and Sky from that song, and it's a ghost story. So this is one I completely made up. And it's pretty awful. And in fact, when I brought it to the production session for the record, and I said, I absolutely have to do this song. I love this song. My producer said, what's your dad gonna say? Like, you know, my dad is, he's doesn't like the ghost story things and whatever. It was pretty awful. I said, no, I have to sing it. I love the story. You know, and I fought really hard for that song. But that song kind of, like, most of it was written, but then it took me several years to figure out how the ghost got revenge. And I finally saw the movie Legends of the Fall, and that kind of gave me an idea of how to wrap things up. So, but I swear, like, that song just sat there for like 7 years and I didn't get it finished.
Wow.
Another song that's along those, that kind of waited a long time, even longer than that one, I Dream in Technicolor. I wrote that chorus in college, and then I couldn't figure out where to go with it. And I kept trying different verses and nothing fit with it. I even tried bringing it to a co-writer and it just wasn't working. And then I had the dream that inspired the first verse. I literally, my husband woke me up and he's like, you're screaming bloody murder in your sleep. What's going on? You know? And anyway, and then the song just kind of just happened from that. But it took, like, so college, I don't know, I probably was working on that song in like 98 or 99, and then didn't record it until 2019, you know, released on the record in 2020. So long span there.
Long process. So at any given moment, do you have a lot of songs kind of on the back burner?
Yeah, I mean, I've got things in various states of completion, things with co-writers that I need to circle back around to and finish up, and things on my own that I've have simmering in the background. I like I said before, if anything strikes me, if I'm driving, I'll pull over and write it down on my list on my phone. If it's a little song idea, I'll sing a memo to myself. And if it immediately strikes me as an idea that I want to write with somebody specific, I'll usually send it to them. Did a lot of writing in college when I worked for about 6 months at a gas station in there as I was trying to get my in-state status, you know, in Tennessee. And I would be singing these songs I was writing as I was stocking the cooler, and I freaked several people out because they'd open the cooler door to get a drink and coming out of the cooler.
Joshua Carson came around, said he gonna put me in a wedding gown, but I refused. Told me I was the girl he loved the best, then he drew a dagger through my lily white breast, 'cause I refused. They ruled my death a suicide, the family was ashamed, and oh how Joshua did cry over my grave. But what they don't know is I keep walking between earth and sky. I'm not living, but I didn't die. Joshua Carson took a wife, promised her the best and an easy life. He did provide. In the shadows I'd watch and wait, all the while nursing a burning hate for him and his blushing bride. 'Cause happiness is what they have, but only for a time. 'Cause Joshua had yet to pay the debt of his crime. And what they don't know is I keep walking between earth and sky. I'm not living, but I didn't die. and where we'll be as soon as you get around to joining me, Joshua. Until then, how's about a little hell in the heaven of your home? Now on your mind, I don't want to leave you while far along, 'cause what you don't know is I keep walking between earth and sky. Heard a voice telling her the story of an awful choice her husband made so long ago. Voice got louder and they got scared, tore her clothes, cut her hair and grabbed a blade. They found her in the rocking chair, stabbed through the heart, a note pinned to her in my hand saying, "We know what you are. We know what you are." Now every day he's still walking. All around town he's still walking. He lost his mind and he's still walking between earth and sky. He's not living, but he didn't die. He didn't die. He didn't die.
Now, you referenced your time at East State Tennessee University.
Yes.
And so I was wondering, from your first album, Rest My Weary Feet, which you recorded at
Yeah.
21, correct?
Yeah.
Now,
Yes.
to your latest album, which was released in 2020, Distance in Time, which is a personal favorite of
Wow.
mine, an all-time favorite.
Thank you.
How do you think you have changed as an artist, and how has your process evolved? I know that's a big question.
Wow. Well, I think I play better in tune in B flat on my fiddle, I think, than I did back then. And my voice is definitely I feel like it's ripened. I feel like I'm a stronger singer than I was back then. Um but man, I'm so proud of that record, Rest My Weary Feet.
Yeah.
And a lot of those songs were covered by other artists, including Russell Moore and Third Time Out. They did Rest My Weary Feet.
Oh,
And
wow.
I mean, oh my gosh, Russell has been one of my heroes for as long as I can
Yeah.
remember. And he could sing the phone book and I would swoon. And now he's sung 3 songs that I've written or co-written.
That's
And
amazing.
you know, I will never ever get over that. It's such like one of the biggest honors ever is when another artist likes your art so much that they make it part of their art. That
Absolutely.
is just huge, absolutely huge. And my friends the Chapmans recorded "How I Love You" off of that record. Let's see, "Goodbye." Why don't you just say goodbye, Kenny and Amanda Smith? Anyway, so that record, you know, it did all right for me, you know. But then it also served as demos that went on to be recorded by other folks that are,
Right.
like I said, heroes of mine in the industry.
I mean,
So
your music is covered very often, like incredibly often. And so when you're listening to these covers by people that you've admired for a long time, or maybe people you're just hearing about, what do you look for in a good cover of your music? Is there something specific that you enjoy when
hmm.
listening to your own song back to you, but through a different?
Well, you know, it's interesting to hear what they do to a song. And on some of them, I'm like, yeah, that's great. I mean, like, that's way better than I could ever sing it. And that's exactly the way it needed to be sung. And then other times, some of them I'll be like, yeah, I wish they would have phrased it a little more like I phrased it, because
Right.
I still feel it that way. But you know, if I ever play that out at a writer's night, I can sing it that way, and that's cool.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah. Larry Cordell says you can change anything you want to about the song, just don't change my name on it.
Now, when you approach a song that you know you're going to write for another band that you aren't going to sing, does that process then change?
I feel like it's the same process every time. You know, just chasing the idea, uh, and trying to listen to what the song wants, and making sure that I tell the story. I mean, you know, whether it's a full-on story song or it's just a gospel tune or a love gone wrong song, there's a thread of story that goes through it, and you want to give as much information as possible in the limited amount of time that you have, which I
Right.
said already. But and that's you know, that's a dance. And so it's very important to not only to generate content but to edit. And a lot of people feel like, well, the song just has to happen. It's just, you know, I'm not a good songwriter if the song just doesn't show up fully formed. Well, no, that's the exception rather than the rule. Editing is an important part of the process. Go through and make sure that you haven't said things, you know, over and over and over again. Or if you
Right.
do have to say something again, is there another way you can say it, or another way you can put a spin on that gives a deeper or another dimension to the song and the idea, more depth and breadth to what's going on. And you want to paint as complete a picture as you can. You want to leave a little bit of room for the listener to hear themselves in the song.
Right.
You want them to become one with the song too. And yeah, I mean, and I think detail is good. And some people say, well, yeah, you should make it more general so it'll appeal to more people. And I'm like, no, I like the little details. That's what keeps
Yeah.
me interested and pulls me in. And when I hear words in songs that I've never heard before, for instance, I was writing with Ned Luberecki, who plays banjo in my band, and he was telling stories about when he lived back in Baltimore, which is his hometown. And I said, back in Baltimore, that's a song, because I break for alliteration. And and I said, we should write your story. He's like, no, I don't want to do that. And we ended up writing this song about a guy that comes to Baltimore from the mountains seeking fame and fortune. And of course he goes to prison, and that's where he's going to rot, right? It's bluegrass and it's got a happy, upbeat melody. So anyway, so the last line of every verse is back in Baltimore. So we had to rhyme Baltimore. And when Ned said, well, we should put stevedore in there. And I said, what's a stevedore? Because I'm from the upper Midwest. It's corn, soybeans, and hogs. We don't have stevedores that I know of. But they're the guys that load the stuff on and off the ships. And so I love that I learned a new word in the process of songwriting. And Ned decided to record that song for his record, and we both thought, oh man, this sounds like something Tim O'Brien would sing. And so Ned reached out to him and sent Tim the song, and Tim wrote right back and said, man, that's really cool, you got stevedore in the song. And so Ned and I said we had him at stevedore.
Now, changing gears a little bit, in an interview with musicmecca.org, you said that your biggest goal as a bluegrass artist was to stay in business because, quote, our industry is changing so fast. I hope folks will still want to hear the music we like to make even 5 years from now. Can you talk about what it's like to be a bluegrass music player in 2022 in this moment in time, and how you've observed in your career how that's changed? and how it's different right now?
Well, definitely the audience for bluegrass music is changing. A lot of
Mm.
it's aging. Folks haven't really passed the music down to their kids or my generation. I'm kind of an anomaly, and for the longest time, I was the youngest person in the room. It was my parents' age and older,
Mm.
people that played. Now, it's not that way everywhere, but for the pure bluegrass festivals, it is that way. It's mostly retirees. You're starting to see more music festivals that have bluegrass, Americana, maybe roots, or kind of, and those seem to be doing well and attracting folks that are my age and younger, in addition to the older folks. I see. I do a lot of gospel music because I'm a Christ follower, and that's very important to me. It's the most important thing in my life, and so every show we do, no matter where we are, we'll do a few gospel songs. And um, so far, that's been accepted, and people, it's great. I have people that'll come up and say, man, we had church just on that one song. I'm just that meant so much to me. And but you're seeing increasing, like there are places where they don't want that in the music. They want you to stay away from that. So, and then that's starting to creep in. So I'm kind of watching that and wondering where that's all going to lead. The digital, okay, on the financial side of things, with the streaming, that's just really hard for everybody all across the board, any kind of music. It still costs at least $20,000 for a band to do a good album, and that's probably on the low side. With a bluegrass band, most of what I do is a 5-piece band, and then maybe 2 or 3 vocal tracks.
Right.
Me with a couple harmonies, maybe we'll do a quartet track, so and then your all your studio fees, all your photography, blah 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 blah, licensing. I mean, it just costs a lot of money to do a record, and people don't realize that like the streaming, hardly, it pays fractions of pennies per however many thousand streams for this music, and people are kind of thinking that music should be free, but it's not free to make it. And we'd sure like to continue making music. So,
Right.
And with the bluegrass audience, they still want the CDs. So got to have those. I'm not playing to audiences that like vinyl as much. I get a few requests for vinyl, but for the most part, it's just CDs. And they like, the bluegrass people love to have the liner notes, and they want to know who played on what and what the serial number is in your guitar, and just all that stuff. And I get it, I'm right in there with them. I love to see all that. But the more general audiences have switched over to the digital medium, me included. I have a Spotify subscription, and my daughter has a playlist on there, and we listen to that just about every day going to school. So anyway, I'm continually trying to think of merchandising things we can do. I have socks now, Becky Buller socks. It's so exciting. I want to thank Tony Trishka for hooking me up with this sock guy.
Oh my gosh, I gotta get a pair. And I have to say, a Becky Buller vinyl as a collector's item would be, I mean, I'm buying if you're ever selling. That's all I'm
thank
saying.
you very much.
Yes.
We're talking about it with Dark Shadow Recording, my label, and we're getting there. We've just tried to make the most prudent decisions that we can, financially. But yeah, I'm always thinking of the merchandise side of things. Well, we could do this sticker, or we could do that T-shirt, or we could, posters and that sort of stuff. And then there's the social media. There's that's a very important component of this. And man, that's a full-time job. just
Yeah.
doing the social media. I enjoy it. I enjoy the fan interaction. That's bluegrass music is so personable. So many of the fans also play themselves, and with bluegrass music, it's still normal for people to expect to talk to the artists at the record table. And so anyway, it's all being able to interact with the fans on the socials is critical and fun, and slightly exhausting, but fun, but really fun. And I do want to say that it's very important to me that our online presence and our onstage presence it's all about the music. It's music and mayhem, and our job is to entertain you and take you away from reality for a little while. And we hope that you leave our presence feeling refreshed and rejuvenated, and that that you've had a spiritual lift, and that you're encouraged to go out and be light in your community.
Well, I think that is the perfect note to end this interview on. Becky,
Okay.
thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you, John. I
Your music
appreciate
has done
you.
all of that for me personally. And I
Thank
know you're very
you.
busy between teaching, touring, and writing and everything. So I'm very grateful that I got to talk to you. This has been a great
Thank
experience.
Thank you.
Becky Buller's latest single, Millworker, is out now and available wherever you stream music. You can find more information about Becky Buller and her tours and her band at beckybuller.com and on Instagram at BeckyBullerOfficial. I'm John Howley, and you're listening to WKCR 89.9 FM New York.
I'm speaking to that mountain, and brother, I believe God above can move it, but it might want to move me.